Welcome to an edition of Nudo's Holden Collections. Today's featured vehicle is the hxle, Holden from 1976. The vehicle featured fluted guards, which would be seen on the GTS models, as well as Pontiac sourced polycast wheels, which we would call the honeycomb wheel. The vehicle featured wood grain trim on the dashboards, as well as velour interior. It was spec'd out to try and match the outside colour of the vehicles. The vehicle was called an LE, or limited edition vehicle, because effectively it was a run-out vehicle. It was leftover body shells from the HQ Monaro two-door coupes that they were then trying to get rid of. And we can see this from the rear end, where we have an HQ style rear end light treatment on the vehicle. The vehicle featured twin headlights. This was a nod to the premiers of the time, as well as featuring front and rear splitters or spoilers. The vehicle featured a 5-litre Holden V8 cast iron block, which had been detuned in the 1970s in the same way that General Motors had detuned their cars in the United States because of emission and pollution control measures that governments globally were starting to enforce. The hxle was released in August of 1976, and it was a run-out model car. Holden had the dilemma of 600 plus body shells being left over from the HQ series, and the HX was going to be the last of the two-door coupes for that time in that era, the 1970s. The vehicle featured luxury appointments. Not only did it have a flash velour interior, it also came with power steering. It came with disc brakes all round, and it also had powered windows. Officially 580 of the model were actually produced, and sadly 20 plus of the cars were destroyed in a factory fire in Perth. They'd been exported over to Perth and were put in a warehouse ready to go to Holden dealers for distribution, and a fire took hold in that warehouse and all of those vehicles were destroyed and written off because of that fire. All the LE vehicles were produced in Sydney at Pagewood, Holden's Pagewood plant. The paint colour of the scheme of the cars was called LE Red or Crimson Red. The chief designer of this car was called Leo Prenow, and he was an American and an enthusiast, a car enthusiast. When the car was actually unveiled to Holden executives, he had kind of pulled a bit of a Mike Simcoe in designing a car that nobody was actually aware of. His logic and explanation in designing this car with all of its key luxury features, its almost over-the-top appointments, was the fact that he saw the car having its last hurrah as a two-door coupe, and he wanted the car to go out in style and in luxury. His justification was that if you were going to say farewell to somebody, you put on your best suit, akin to going to somebody's funeral. So he wanted to dress up that vehicle the best way possible. Some executives thought it was a little bit over the top, the styling was a little bit too much, but the CEO of Holden at the time, gave it the nod and it went into production. The vehicle remains a bit of a timeless classic. It still has great looks, even though it is so many years since it was produced. In the 1980s and 1990s, you could pick one of these up fairly reasonably, fairly cheaply, but with the rebirth of the V2 Monaros in 2001, consumer interest regained in the brand. Although this car was never called a Monaro officially, like the GTS of 1978, which had the same front-end treatment, these vehicles have come to be called Monaros over time. To the enthusiast, it'll always be the LE, Holden LE HX from 1976. Thank you for watching an episode of Nudo's Holden Collections.